Welcome to today's Explainer, junior researchers. I am Dr. Damian Wolf. Now, despite my usually sunny disposition, today we're diving into the rather grim, classified records of SCP-105. With my background in psychology and anomalous metaphysics, I'll be guiding you through this training. Look, as field agents and researchers, it's absolutely crucial that you understand the incredibly fine line we walk when managing high-intelligence human assets. Today, we're going to unpack the tragedy of an innocent teenager whose unique gift was essentially weaponized. We'll be using Iris Thompson as our primary case study for asset psychological stability and long-term containment protocols. So, let's get into it.
Right off the bat, I want you to really think about this quote from one of her early interview logs. It's sort of like, new prison, new warden. When you're evaluating humanoid anomalies, understanding the psychological impact of long-term containment isn't just a suggestion. It is literally your job. This mindset shows us a subject who is cooperative, sure, but she's acutely aware of her captivity and the sheer lack of any other options. That exact psychological cocktail makes an asset incredibly useful to us, but it also makes them uniquely vulnerable to emotional deterioration over time.
All right, Section 1. Meet SCP-105. Okay, Step 1 in maintaining professional distance is understanding exactly what, or rather who, we are dealing with. We have to clearly distinguish between the asset, SCP-105, and the object, SCP-105-B. SCP-105 is Iris Thompson, acquired in her late teens. Physically, biologically, she presents as a completely baseline, non-anomalous human in excellent health. Then we have SCP-105-B. This is her personal camera, a 1982 Polaroid One-Step Express. To literally anyone else on the planet, it operates exactly like a vintage camera. But it's this specific combination of these two that requires our strictest safety protocols and extremely rigorous handling procedures during high-risk operations.
Now, this is where the metaphysics get absolutely fascinating. When Iris holds a photograph taken by her specific Polaroid, that still image shifts into a real-time window of that exact location. She can then physically reach right through the photograph and manipulate objects at the original site. Witnesses on the other side actually see a disembodied female hand emerging from an invisible, localized portal. But here's the catch, and why deploying anomalous photographic abilities in active zones is so risky: she only has this fine control with photos from 105B. If the photograph is damaged in the field, her connection is instantly severed. Her reach, and by extension our entire operational capability, is directly tied to the physical integrity of the image she's holding.
Moving on to Section 2, the murder and cover-up.
As field agents, you've got to be thoroughly aware of an asset's trauma background to manage your interactions with them safely. So how did she end up with us? It all traces back to the tragic murder of her boyfriend. Iris claimed she was on the phone with him when it happened, but the telecom records didn't match, which immediately made her the prime suspect. Desperate to clear her name, she confessed to her lawyer that she actually witnessed the murder through a photograph she'd taken days prior. When they pressured her to just plead guilty, she refused, and offered to demonstrate her abilities in open court instead. Well, naturally, the Foundation intercepted before that could happen. To secure custody and throw off her parents, we staged a botched escape at a psychiatric facility, effectively faking her death. I really want you to consider the severe ethical boundaries of acquisitions like this. It is a profoundly traumatic foundation for a life spent in containment.
Section 3, Interview Log Revelations.
Let's peel back the clinical layers a bit. Dr. Masaub probes into her childhood here to pinpoint exactly when these anomalous traits first showed up. From a purely psychological perspective, establishing this baseline mental state before Foundation intervention is critical. It's exactly how we train you to identify later deviations or any signs of severe emotional distress during long-term field assignments.
Listen to this. She recounts this really whimsical origin story from when she was 11 or 12 years old. She was looking through a family photo album after a trip to the Grand Canyon, accidentally brushed her hand against a photo, reached through and pushed a rock over the edge. She even told the doctor she could hear it clatter all the way down. Just a kid dropping rocks into a canyon via a photograph. It's a surprisingly charming start for an anomaly that eventually ends up in a Foundation black site, isn't it? It perfectly highlights her initial wonder and complete lack of malice.
Which brings us to her capacity, specifically the number 10. During her evaluation, she confidently noted she could focus on up to 10 photographs at once using her personal camera, and probably even more with practice. Now, think about the immense mental load required to manipulate 10 separate spatial realities simultaneously without going into complete sensory overload. This profound multitasking and anomalous spatial awareness make her an incredibly valuable high-intelligence asset. The neurological flexibility required for that is frankly astounding.
Section 4,
Task Force Omega-7.
Her remarkable intelligence value led directly into her recruitment into the Pandora's Box initiative, where she was offered limited outside privileges in exchange for her cooperation. Notice the stark operational contrast here on this slide, researchers. Iris became the second humanoid SCP recruited to Mobile Task Force Omega-7. On one side, you've got Team Able, utilizing SCP-0762 for highly violent strike and capture operations. On the flip side, you have Team Iris. Her primary mission was strictly safe reconnaissance and intelligence gathering, and they executed over 20 missions swiftly and without a single incident. For a time, it was the textbook model of safe, collaborative asset utilization and tactical oversight.
But then we hit Section 5, Rebellion and Failed Escape.
That cooperative safety was totally shattered by the Bow Commission, pushing Iris to her absolute moral breaking point. Walk through this rapid, dark escalation with me, because this is a masterclass in how not to manage human assets. It really highlights the moral complications of using human anomalies for Foundation wet work. First, the Bow Commission escalated Team Iris missions from simple reconnaissance to actual assassinations. Second, Iris violently opposed this, showing massive signs of extreme emotional distress. Third, we see a researcher, Dr. D, become inappropriately sympathetic. Let Dr. D be your glaring reminder of the massive containment breach risks linked to improper asset attachment. We maintain professional distance, always. Dr. D actually encouraged Iris to fake the loss of her abilities. When her release was denied, Step 4 happened. Dr. D actively aided her in a botched containment breach. They were caught, and Iris was forced to re-demonstrate her abilities just to claw back a tiny fraction of her baseline privileges.
The fallout was absolute. The Pandora's Box initiative was terminated, and Mobile Task Force Omega-7 was entirely disbanded. SCP-105 was hauled back to Site-17 and officially classified as a security risk. But pay attention to that final point, stripped of access to SCP-105-B. Think back to our psychological profiling from earlier. This wasn't just a basic security measure. We completely removed her lifelong coping mechanism and her primary connection to the outside world. We drastically exacerbated that prison mentality I mentioned at the start.
Which brings us to Section 6, Current Restricted Status.
Let's wrap up by looking at her deeply restricted current situation and the heavy censorship surrounding recent Foundation events. We conclude with this critical question from Addendum 4. Is SCP-105 currently active in Mobile Task Force Alpha-9? See, following Incident R-1300 at Site-17, rumors started swirling about Iris and this new task force. The Records and Information Security Administration issued a fierce denial, insisting that any rumors of her recent use as an asset are categorically false. But, as researchers, we analyze patterns of secrecy. So, I will leave you contemplating the implications. Is the Foundation simply keeping a traumatized, high-value asset locked away indefinitely, or is administration actively hiding her return to the battlefield? Keep these psychological realities at the forefront of your minds as you step into your field assignments. Stay diligent, maintain your boundaries, and stay safe. Class dismissed.